My dear respected elders, brothers, sisters, dear listeners, Alhamdulillah, the Umayyads, they expanded the Muslim Ummah from on the one hand Spain and to the other hand the frontiers of China. Subhanallah, the Umayyads, they contributed great infrastructure. They, subhanallah, put amazing roads, and we know the Silk Road, they expanded that to many of the Muslim world cities. Thereafter, alhamdulillah, they built many canals and water was flowing from city to city. They built masjids. We know in the Umayyad Empire, the Dome of the Rock and also the Umayyad Masjid was built. They're also the ones that made the Muslim coin and they minted the Muslim coin in Damascus. Alhamdulillah, great contributions by the Umayyads. Then came the Abbasid dynasty. Islam is like water. Wherever it flows, it retains its purity, but it takes, mashallah, the shape, the flow, and it takes the color of the rock beyond it. The Abbasids, mashallah, when they came, we find that they cherished knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran Kareem, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Recite, read, and Allah Ta'ala is the one who taught you with the pen. And hence we find that they would summon ulama and they would summon scholars from all religions, including Jewish scholars, Christian scholars, scholars from India, and even scholars from China. And they would allow them to be in Baghdad and contribute to the knowledge that was now about to change the world. My beloved, subhanallah, in that time, in the Abbasids' time, they realized that no one needs time more than the Muslimin. Wal Asr, Allah takes a qasam on time. And how are we going to capture time? We find that Harun al-Rashid summoned many people around him and asked them to make him a clock. And the first clock in the world was created in the time of Harun al-Rashid. He then made a duplicate and he sent it to the king of France. It is said it was so intricate and it was so beautiful that the king of France thought it was some magic and he was skeptical of touching it, thinking it is out of this world. At that time we find Al-Jazari. Al-Jazari, subhanallah, came afterwards and he was the father of clocks. He would make amazing clocks in different forms. And the famous clock that he made from all different parts of the world, he took different mechanisms and he makes this amazing elephant clock. This clock also, subhanallah, marks itself in history. Al-Jazari, besides clocks, would make many, many technical features in various things. Subhanallah, he was the one that invented the wudu maker that would give spurts of water so a person does not waste water. I'm talking of 1,000 years ago, where this beautiful mechanism would give you enough water just to wash your limbs, 10 spurts for your wudu, and thereafter it would dispense a towel for you. Baghdad was a city made on the Euphrates River, and thereafter within Baghdad and the four corners of Baghdad, Ma'mun, who is the son of Harun al-Rashid, with the help of his father and then later himself, subhanallah, builds, initiates and expands Baytul Hikmah. Baytul Hikmah is one of the first universities built in the Islamic world that, subhanallah, taught astronomy, it taught mathematics, it taught philosophy, it taught science, it taught geography. It taught us from around the world under one roof. Whether you were Jewish, whether you were, subhanallah, Chinese, whether you were Indian, or whether you were Caucasian, it brought them underneath there. And they began, subhanallah, paying top dollar to people to transcribe and to translate all the Sanskrit and Chinese books in Arabic. My beloved, subhanallah, it is said that in the time of the Umayyads already, such safety was there in the world that a lady could travel. Before that, there was no safety. People could not travel freely. They were, subhanallah, stopped, they were maimed, they were robbed, they were highway robbers. But Islam spread such peace in the world that a lady alone could come from Iraq and make a hajj and then go back without anyone laying a finger on her. How do you capture the knowledge? So 2 convicts of China was in Baghdad, and they said to their leaders that if you allow us to go and release us, we will teach you something you do not have. So they said, what is it? They said, we are paper makers back in China. We will teach you how to make paper. So subhanallah, they learned how to make paper. The Muslims learned how to make paper from the Chinese. And the first mill of sap and wood and making paper was born in Baghdad. It outdone China in few years. The great, subhanallah, mills and libraries began to, subhanallah, prosper in every Muslim town until this knowledge that was captured in Baghdad, in the epicenter called Baytul Hikmah, was written, and within 200 years, the entire Muslim Ummah was populated with these books. That's why when Genghis Khan came, and he came to Baghdad, and he burnt everything, and he threw the books of the libraries in the Euphrates River, it is said that the water turned black with the ink of the millions of manuscripts that the Muslims had and collected over 500 years. In there we find Al-Khwarizmi. Khwarizmi is the father of mathematics. Subhanallah, he is the one, as we know, Al-Jabr wal-Muqabala. It is a science. From there Al-Jabr came, the Arabic word Al-Jabra. And Khwarizm is algorithm. Algorithm from Khwarizm. Al-Jabra from Al-Jabr. These are the great men 1,000 years ago that are writing books and setting, subhanallah, the future for future knowledge and enlightenment. We then find, subhanallah, the numerals. Numerals was taken from Sanskrit and from the Hindus. And then it was, subhanallah, modified. And it was made so beautiful and easy. Before, in Europe, people to write 424,000 had to write one line right up to this line and make so many different circles and so many different shapes. But subhanallah, it was the Muslims and it was Al-Khwarizmi and the likes that took these numerals. All the Hindus modified it. And subhanallah, it's the Pope of Catalonia in Spain that learned these numerals and passed it on to the Latin world. And hence we have our English numerals today. My beloved, subhanallah, whether you see Marwazi or whether you see Buzjani, they are all in trigonometry and in mathematics right in the front, mashallah. Umar Khayyam made a name for himself. And Pascal says the Renaissance would have not happened were it not for these great names of Muslim scholars. My beloveds, we find in 828, Abu Mansur, the king Abu Mansur, the Abbasid king, he, subhanallah, I'm talking of 828, English date, that is more than 1,200 years ago. He founded the first observatory. There was all these amazing gadgets that they would look at the moon, they would look at the sun, they would make, subhanallah, calculations. My beloved, subhanallah, the writer Al-Mas'udi writes in his book that already 1,000 years ago from now, we were on the fields of Baku and we were finding oil beneath the earth, and alhamdulillah, we were drawing its minerals. Today we say Aramco. 1,200 years already these scholars were finding oil and even mining it, alhamdulillah. My beloved, subhanallah, let's not forget the Ibn Sina. Ibn Sina is the father of, subhanallah, of physicians. You know, he wrote so many books, and where do I go? But he writes one book called the Arba'iniyah. Arba'iniyah is that he realizes that there are certain germs that we cannot see and they are transmitted. So subhanallah, he came something with which we say isolation. That arba'in, arba'a means 4. Arba'in means 40. So for 40 days you need to take a patient and isolate him from everyone else. And he will not pass his germs here, nor will, subhanallah, and he will have a space to, alhamdulillah, recover. Later on, the Venetians and the ones in, mashallah, in Italy, they adopted this ideology of Ibn Sina and they made Arba'iniyah. Arba'in is 40 into Latin called quaranta. Quattro is 4, subhanallah. The quad bike, 4 wheels. Quattro, it got 4 cylinders. Quarantine, quaranta means, subhanallah, 40. Taken from the Arba'iniyah of Ibn Sina, and hence we have the beautiful name in English today, quarantine. Let's move on and we find Razi. He's the first one to characterize the sickness called smallpox and measles. People before that never know what is measles nor smallpox, and they would treat it just like a skin disease. And subhanallah, he's the one that characterized it and came up with the solutions and the cures for it. Al-Jizar, he's the first pediatrician amongst the Muslims. He writes a book called Risala fi Siyasat as-Sibyan, to understand that the child's body works different from adult's body and they need specific care. And he's the one to create a specific pediatric ward in the great hospitals of Baghdad. We then find Ibn Rushd Averroes. Subhanallah, Aristotle was before him, but he, subhanallah, took things to a complete different level. And we find, recently I went to the Vatican, and in Rome, when you come to the chapel, on the roof they paint the, subhanallah, the description of all the great thinkers of the Renaissance. And you find Aristotle and the likes, and next to him is a Muslim wearing a Muslim garb. And if you ask anyone amongst the guys, who's that man standing there? They will tell you he's Ibn Rushd, he is Averroes. Subhanallah, my beloveds, we get Ibn Haytham. Ibn Haytham is the father of optics. He is the one that taught us about refraction and how the eye works, subhanallah. He is the one that broke through at that time when people were doubting of how the eye works. And he explained how light works, how light goes onto an object. The telescope, the microscope, and subhanallah, even the screen I'm holding right in front of you now, the camera. All this is based on the finding of Ibn Haytham. He had this ideology of Qamara. Qamara means moon. Moon means, subhanallah, the moon reflects to the world. The light reflects. The moon does not have its own light. It's a reflection of the sun that we are seeing. So this ideology of his was called Qamara. Hence today, Qamara, camera. Zahrawi. We have Zahrawi. Who is Zahrawi? Zahrawi is a surgeon. His book is translated into Latin. He remained a standard textbook. Allah. Zahrawi wrote upon the anatomy. He wrote about surgery. When I went to Spain some time ago, when you go to Cordoba and you cross the great river and you go to the other side, there's a museum there. In that museum, Zahrawi's instruments, surgical instruments for operating on people are still there. These instruments are so fine. Stitching, subhanallah, blades, all this was created hundreds of years ago, and they were doing surgery whilst the Europeans were still lurking in the dark ages. Zahrawi, subhanallah, writes a book. And in his book, subhanallah, his book was so potent at the time that the Europeans translated his book into Latin. For 500 years in Europe, you could not become a doctor until you did not study Zahrawi's book. It remained the main textbook of all the universities of medicine in the modern and the Western world. My beloved, subhanallah, not only did he face or not only did he address physical, subhanallah, maladies, but also beautification. He has a whole book on cosmetics. He taught us how to use mouthwash. It was toothpaste that was invented in the Muslim world. It was, subhanallah, skincare and various types of ointments from herbs that he taught the world how to use. My beloveds, we find then Kindi. Kindi is the father of perfumes. And subhanallah, being in Spain, he found that the most best soil to grow perfume and subhanallah, the fragrant roses and the fragrant bark that he needed for that perfume was in the soil of France. And that is where he planted and he harvested and he made these amazing perfumes. And he wrote his book of various perfumes treating various illnesses. And till today, the fragrant trade booms in France. We know that all the top colognes come from France, subhanallah. But where did it start? It was the Muslim that planted the seed there. My beloved, subhanallah, we find in Brighton, in England, in 1759, there was a man by Deen Muhammad Patna. He came from India. Allahu Akbar, it was an Indian man from Patna, Muhammad Deen Patna, that came to Brighton. And he opened up the first hammam. He introduced them to shampoo. And he called it Muhammad's Baths. It's still today registered in history, Muhammad's Baths in Brighton. They took this off from the hammams in Turkey. And alhamdulillah, my beloved, subhanallah, till today, massage parlors and beauty parlors are all a following of what the Muslims invented in that time with modesty. Let's talk about Ibn Khaldun. He made a breakthrough in social sciences, in demography, in economics, and in cultural history. And till today in major universities, the Muqaddimah of Ibn Khaldun is taught on these subjects. I went just last year to Holland and they took us for a beautiful, subhanallah, drive to see the amazing windmills of Holland. The first windmill was built 1,000 years ago in Baghdad for the Khalif of the time, and it was used to grind corn. My beloved, subhanallah, vaccine. Who started vaccinations? The Muslims started vaccinations, but with halal ingredients and no ulterior motives. It is the wife of the English ambassador to the Ottoman Empire in the 1700s that learned about vaccinations, and she took it back to England. I'm talking about maps. At the end of the day, it is Idrisi that wrote the maps and drew the maps. And subhanallah, till today, the maps of Al-Idrisi was the founding and opening, subhanallah, in finding the modern maps that we have today. My beloved, subhanallah, hospitals were built by the Muslims in every corner. Ibn Talun built one of the first hospitals in Cairo in 872. Let's talk about universities. The first university that is still running till today is the University of Fatima Al-Fihriya in, subhanallah, Fez in Morocco. I visited it, I sat there, and I just wondered, over 1,000 years. It is said that whilst that university was being built, Fatima Fihriya fasted every day of her life. She said, until this does not reach fruition, I will fast every day. The barakah of that till today. The whole concept of ijazah, bachelors and degrees and masters, was invented by the Muslims. We have the whole system called ijazat. And that ijazat was passed on to the Latin world, subhanallah. My beloved, subhanallah, in 989, there was the University of Sakor. Sakor was in a place called Timbuktu. Timbuktu was a great city. And it was in Mali, Timbuktu. this beautiful university at that time held 25,000 students. My beloveds, let's not talk about Azhar University. Over 1,000 years and great luminaries studied there. My beloved, spices. When the Crusades came and subhanallah invaded the Muslim lands. Yes, they came poor. They came as scavengers. In the dark ages of Europe, they never even have soap and they never even know how to wash themselves. And they came to the Muslim lands, they learned how to use soap. They learned how to clean themselves. They learned taste and they learned what is fine dining. They learned about, subhanallah, crystal. Ibn Firnas is the one that found crystal in Andalusia. Till then people were eating in wooden plates in Europe. He is the one that came up with sand and fire, created crystal and subhanallah put plates in front of the Europeans. Ibn Firnas, Abbas Ibn Firnas, is the first one that flew and invented flight. He made subhanallah wings from feathers and from wood and from silk and he flew. But subhanallah, unfortunately he forgot to put a tail. So he could not land properly and he landed on his back and broke his back for life. But he takes the credit of the first flight in human history. Coffee, Allahu Akbar, where did coffee start? 1.5 billion cups are drunk every day. The coffee of the entire world put together in one day can fill 300 Olympic swimming pools. But where did coffee come? It was a nomad. His name was Khalid. He was in the Ethiopian plains and some coffee was growing and his goats began to eat the coffee and they never slept. And he was wondering, why is my goats on steroids? They're just moving. They're not sleeping. And then he realized that they are eating this tree. And when he saw the beans of the tree, he tried it himself and he never slept. And then he made it into a drink. And that is how it caught on. In subhanallah, the 1500s, it was served in Makkah Mukarramah. When people came from Hajj, they began to enjoy it. A man from Turkey took it back to Turkey. And then subhanallah, it caught on in Turkey. Pascoa was the person in Turkey to take it from there back to England. Lombard Street was the first coffee house in England, hundreds of years after the Muslims invented coffee. There are so many manuscripts, Islamic manuscripts in the Vatican, that the entire Muslim world's manuscripts does not equal to the manuscripts of Islamic literature in the Vatican alone. Why are they sitting with what they have? Because they know what the Muslims wrote was wealth. They knew it was gold, subhanallah. Whether it is Danish pastries or whether it is whatever delicacies, all the beginning starts from Muslim lands. My last plea today to all of you, especially my youth, Islam came to give and not to take. Yes, Islam, alhamdulillah, conquered the world, but it done away with the zulm and the oppression. It done away with the darkness. It brought a new light, and it, alhamdulillah, cherished education at its heart, and it spread such knowledge around the world that till today is unfounded. My beloved, subhanallah, today you can walk anywhere. My young boy, you walk in school, you walk in the shopping center. When you are typing your numerals, it is owing to the Muslims. It is owing to your forefathers. When you're drinking that coffee, it is owing to your forefathers. When you go to the hospital, it's owing to your forefathers. When you're going to, subhanallah, university, wherever you are going, whatever you are doing, there is some sort, whether you're taking out your camera and taking a snap, or whether you're looking at that moon, whether you are learning certain calculations, whether you're going through algebra, whether you're going through physics, or whether you're going through geography, the starting of that all comes to the great minds of the golden era of Islam. Oh young boy, don't come to Australia and forget your identity and let a bully in your class tell you that you are no one. You never fall down here. They are our fathers and we are proud of our fathers. We are one Islamic ummah. If they have Adam Smith, then we have Ibn Khaldun. If they have Marco Polo, we have Ibn Battuta. If they have Aristotle, we have Ibn Rushd. And if they have the Wright brothers, then we have Abbas Ibn Firnas. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the realization of who we are and where we come from. And if we change our ways today and be, alhamdulillah, as Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu said, أَعَزَّنَا اللَّهُ بِالْإِسْلَامِ. Allah granted us izzah and honor because of Islam. لَوْ ابْتَغَيْنَا الْعِزَّةَ فِي غَيْرِ الْإِسْلَامِ لَأَذَنْ لَنَا اللَّهِ. If we seek honor in anything but the deen of Allah, Allah will degrade you and make you from where you came.